وصول للعارضة التقنية. شكرا جزيلا لكم مستمعينا الأفاضل في كل مكان. نلتقي غدا في أمان الله.
With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, Prime Minister Sefi Ghraib held today here in Algiers bilateral talks with his Serbian counterpart Goran Massoud, who is on a welcome visit to Algeria. Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf is in Brussels on an official visit aimed at supporting the renewed momentum marking the Algerian-Belgian relations with the goal of establishing a more intensive, efficient and effective bilateral partnership. The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting today following the deaths of 3 Indonesian peacekeepers in southern Lebanon, which is under attack by Zionist forces. The Palestinian presidency has strongly condemned the Israeli occupying authorities' approval of a bill authorizing the execution of Palestinian prisoners. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Samani. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received a message of condolences from his brother, the Emir of the Brotherly State of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and from the Deputy Emir of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Thani, following the death of the former President of the Republic, Yamin Zarwel. In their messages, both of the Emir of Qatar and the Deputy Emir presented their sincere condolences and expressed their deep compassion during this painful ordeal. Now, here in Algiers, Prime Minister Sefi Ghraib held bilateral talks today with his Serbian counterpart, Goran Massoud, who is on a welcome visit to Algeria. More details with Masoud Sharfi.
The talks were followed by a working session extended to members' delegations, during which the various fields of cooperation between Algeria and Serbia were examined and ways to strengthen the economic partnership and boost bilateral trade and investment were discussed. On the occasion, the Serbian Prime Minister affirmed his country's strong political will to strengthen relations, recalling their shared history since the Algerian Revolution, and stressed activating bilateral cooperation mechanisms, especially the Joint Cooperation Committee, to implement agreements and explore new economic and commercial partnerships opportunities. Evoking regional and international issues, he highlighted both countries' shared commitment to international legitimacy, state sovereignty, and UN resolutions as guarantees of global peace and stability. Prime Minister Sefi Ghraib, for his part, praised the historical ties existing between Algeria and Serbia, dating back to Yugoslavia's support for Algeria's liberation, and emphasized the need to boost bilateral economic and commercial exchanges, which remain limited compared to their potential. He commended President Tebboune's reforms and urged the Serbian partner to seize investment opportunities to strengthen bilateral economic ties, while highlighting Algeria-Serbia alignment on international law and the need for joint efforts to promote global peace and stability. Earlier, the two prime ministers presided over the signing of several agreements related to finance, agriculture, posts and tourism sectors, as well as an executive program in the cultural sector for 2026-2028.
Entrusted by President Abdelmajid Tebboune, the State Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, is in Brussels on an official visit to Belgium, where he had talks with his Belgian counterpart, Mr. Maxime Prévost. The visit aims to support the renewed momentum marking the Algerian-Belgian relations with the goal of establishing a more intensive, efficient and effective bilateral partnership. Mr. Ahmed Attaf has held in Zagreb one-on-one talks with the Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Croatia, Mr. Gordan Gleric Redman. The meeting was followed by a working session extended to the two delegations. During the talks, both sides assessed Algerian-Croatian relations and explored development prospects focusing on energy industry, notably maritime and shipbuilding, Saharan agriculture, tourism and training. Mr. Attaf reaffirmed the strong, long-standing ties existing between Algeria and Croatia, highlighting their shared history, values and prospects for enhanced cooperation.
I am very pleased to be among you today as part of this official visit that I am undertaking at the instruction of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to reaffirm our commitment to the shared historical heritage that unites our two countries and our two peoples, as well as to the solid values and principles, and to the distinguished relations that are rich with a vast reservoir of opportunities for cooperation and promising partnership. Relations between Algeria and Croatia are not of today nor of the recent past. Rather, they are firm and deeply rooted in the history of our two friendly countries and peoples.
The two ministers also discussed regional international issues, including the Middle East military escalation and ways to strengthen the Euro-Mediterranean partnership for the security and development of both shores. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. We're coming live to you from the capital, Algiers. Still in the country, the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, APO, Ghazali Farid, has emphasized in the city of Oran that Algeria is positioning itself as a key player in regional and international energy security, thanks to the consistency of its supplies and its commitment to structuring Pan-African projects. Mr. Ghazali highlighted Algeria's commitment to African energy integration, citing the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline linking Nigeria to Europe via Niger and Algeria as realistic and operational, and expressed hope it would enter service by 2029, showcasing Africa's reliability as an energy supplier. As to the role of gas in the global energy market, Mr. Ghazali called gas the best bridge existing between fossil fuels and the energy transition, noting it is essential and has proven its value historically and in the near future. He emphasized placing Africa at the center of our thinking, highlighting the continent's challenges and potential, including energy access, industrialization, and regional integration within the energy transition.
Place Africa at the center of our reflection from the outset. Our continent faces a demanding equation, but it also holds a considerable promise, meeting the urgent need for access to energy, supporting industrialization, and strengthening regional integration, all while aligning with the imperatives of the energy transition.
In this context, Mr. Ghazali emphasized Algeria's key role as a reliable gas supplier, noting that it has never interrupted deliveries, and described this consistency as an invaluable quality that goes beyond price.
Today, Africa is a reliable supplier, and when I say Africa at the forefront, I mean Algeria. Algeria has proved its reliability as a gas supplier, providing energy in its entirety. It has never stopped supplying its clients for even a single second. So I think Africa has proved its reliability. This reliability now is a value. It is an enhanced value.
The president of the Algerian Gas Industry Association, Nourdine Daoudi, for his part emphasized that the rapid developments in the gas industry require from sector actors to keep up with modern technologies, notably digitization and artificial intelligence. Mr. Daoudi, who also acts as CEO of the Sonatrach Group, said that at the 8th Algerian Gas Industry Association Conference that modern technologies boost industrial performance and sustainability, while natural gas remains a key low-carbon pillar supporting stable energy markets and renewable integration. He highlighted Sonatrach's efforts to ensure reliable energy supply, advance gas decarbonization, and develop low-carbon hydrogen as a key future energy pillar.
Sonatrach is working to strengthen its role as a reliable energy supplier by developing its production capacities, modernizing its gas infrastructure, and expanding its international partnerships, thereby enhancing supply security and meeting the expectations of global markets. The discussion about the future of the gas industry cannot be separated from the challenges associated with the energy transition, which has become one of the foremost international priorities. In this context, decarbonization of the gas sector emerges as one of the key pillars requiring continuous efforts. Moreover, hydrogen, particularly low-carbon hydrogen, constitutes one of the most important future pillars in the global energy system. This promising energy resource opens new horizons for international cooperation and investment in clean technologies, while offering natural gas-producing countries strategic opportunities to develop new value chains and strengthen their position in the energy markets of the future.
Mr. Dodi emphasized that the gas industry's transformation depends on investing in skilled human capital and noted that the 8th Algerian Gas Industry Association Conference offers a platform for expert discussions and showcasing the latest gas and hydrogen developments. Now to the Middle East. The Palestinian presidency has strongly condemned the Israeli occupying authorities' approval of a bill authorizing the execution of Palestinian prisoners, describing the decision as a blatant violation of international law, notably the Fourth Geneva Convention. It considers the decision a war crime perpetrated against the Palestinian people that came within a context of escalating policies and measures adopted by the Israeli occupying authorities in both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. In this respect, the Palestinian presidency warned against the repercussions of such a law it described as segregationist and as likely to lead to more tensions and to undermine all prospects for a restoration of security and stability in the region. In a similar move, the Arab Parliament condemned in its strongest words the Israeli decision, saying it constitutes a major crime and blatant violation of the international law and conventions, particularly the Geneva Convention that bans all attempts to the prisoner's life. The Israeli decision also triggered off condemnation, notably by the Arab League. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupying army pursued its attacks on the Gaza Strip, killing at least 2 Palestinians in Gaza and Khan Yunis in the southern part of the enclave. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, Filippo Lazzarini, affirmed that the suffering of the population in Gaza continues despite the ceasefire, which is described as merely symbolic. More with Masoud Sharfi.
He highlighted that civilians are still being killed and are suffering from shortages of water and food, as well as the spread of disease. In a press conference, Lazzarini affirmed that UNRWA remains the only agency capable of providing comprehensive services in the Gaza Strip, given the lack of an alternative to carry out its responsibilities. He also said that there is a well-overstretched disinformation campaign targeting the agency aimed at undermining the rights of the Palestinians.
A well-orchestrated disinformation campaign continues. It alleges agency-wide neutrality breaches and asserts that our operations have been replaced in Gaza, where UNRWA remains, as of today, a major provider of primary healthcare, education, clean water, sanitation and hygiene. The purpose of these unsubstantiated and malicious claims is to justify actions against UNRWA and to undermine member states' support. We are now seeing similar claims being made against other UN entities and international NGOs assisting Palestinians in Gaza. I cannot stress enough that the attacks against UNRWA are not about neutrality or operationality. Rather, they seek to undermine the agency to weaken Palestinians' right within final status issues in the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Lazzarini also pointed to what he termed the silent war in the West Bank, citing settlers' attacks and demolitions that have also targeted UNRWA facilities in East Jerusalem. He emphasized that UNRWA is facing a severe funding crisis despite the renewal of its mandate for 3 years, warning that it may become unable to continue operating without urgent financial support. He further cautioned that targeting UNRWA could set a dangerous precedent that might affect other UN agencies.
The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting today following the killing of 3 Indonesian peacekeepers in southern Lebanon, which is under attack by Zionist forces. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, said it was investigating the killing of the soldiers by an explosion of an unknown origin that destroyed their vehicle near Beni Hayyan on the border. The attack was condemned by the UN Under-Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix.
I express my deepest condolences to the families of the fallen peacekeepers and the government of Indonesia, and I wish a full recovery to those injured. We strongly condemn these unacceptable incidents, and peacekeepers must never be a target. UNIFIL is investigating these incidents to determine the circumstances of these tragic developments. We also remain seriously concerned about several aggressive behaviors incident against UNIFIL peacekeepers in the past couple of days. All acts that endanger the peacekeepers must stop, and all actors must adhere to their obligations to ensure the safety and security of the peacekeepers at all times. Our peacekeepers remain on the ground, carrying out Security Council mandated tasks in these extremely dangerous conditions. You can imagine that they are constrained in what they do, but they continue to do whatever is possible for them to do.
Health sources said that the Israeli strikes on Lebanon have claimed more than 1,200 lives and injured more than 3,600. The Gulf states called for de-escalation in the Middle East and Gulf region. Several Iranian military infrastructure and facilities were today targeted by U.S.-Israeli joint airstrikes. In a message posted on X, the Iranian government announced that one of Iran's main pharmaceutical companies was today hit by the U.S.-Israeli strikes. Earlier, a senior Iranian official was quoted by the news agency saying that one of the desalination plants in the island of Qashm has been put on of service after being hit by the strikes. According to local media, the U.S.-Israeli attacks also targeted military sites in the central city of Isfahan. This came as the Gulf countries called for de-escalation and for an end to be put to the war, raging in the region for 5 weeks now. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.
The international event of the week.
The world's attention focused again this week on the escalating conflict between the US and Iran, considered one of the most dangerous geopolitical crises unfolding today, as well as on the urgent effort to end the hostilities. The conflict, now entering its 4th week, has intensified across the Middle East and the Gulf region, with heavy airstrikes, regional instability, and increasing humanitarian concerns. Media reports indicate that the Strait of Hormuz, considered a vital global oil route, remains at the center of tensions, with Iran restricting access, thus disrupting considerably the global energy supplies and impacting the oil prices. As fears of a broader regional conflict continue to rise, the UN, the European Union, the Arab states, and several countries have called for de-escalation amid an increase in casualties. Talks are reportedly being facilitated through international intermediaries, including Pakistan. In this respect, the US has proposed a 15-point peace plan aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear activities, reopening key shipping routes, and reducing regional tensions. Iran criticized the proposal as one-sided and unfair, while insisting on sovereignty and security guarantees, as well as compensations, before agreeing to any deal. Asked if the deep divisions between the US and Iran will persist, our political analyst from California, Hamoud Salhi, has this to say.
As it stands today, the United States and Iran remain far apart, both in what they want and in how they see the path forward. On one side, the United States is calling for a major rollback of Iran's strategic capabilities. That includes limits on its nuclear program, tighter oversight and restrictions on its broader military reach. On the other side, Iran is demanding something very different: compensation for past attacks, firm security guarantees, protections of its sovereignty, and even control over key waterways like the Strait of Hormuz. Put it simply, each side is asking the other to move in the opposite direction. The United States wants Iran to scale back. Iran wants the U.S. to concede power and acknowledge responsibility of its attacks. The gap is not just wide, it is structural. Now, in theory, this position could serve as a starting point for negotiations. But the bigger issue here is trust, or more accurately, the lack of it. Iranian officials have dismissed the U.S. proposal as one-sided, and that reaction is rooted in experience. Over the past year, moments of diplomacy have unfolded alongside military escalations. From Tehran's perspective, talks have at times coincided with or even mask preparations for confrontation. Whether or not that interpretation is accurate, it shapes how Iran approaches any new proposal. At the same time, rhetoric from the United States and its allies hasn't helped ease tension. Statements suggesting they are gaining the upper hand or aiming for a decisive outcome signal confidence, but they also make compromise harder. When one side believes it's winning, there is less incentive to negotiate. All of this happening against the background of ongoing conflict, strikes, counterstrike, and disruptions to key shipping routes and other places. And when fighting continues, diplomacy becomes that much more difficult. So where does that leave things? For now, the prospect for a breakthrough appear limited. The demands are far apart, trust is low, and the situation on the ground remains very, very dangerous. That doesn't mean diplomacy is off the table, but it does mean that in the near term, these divisions are likely to persist.
This week, US President Donald Trump announced that he was postponing attacks on Iran's energy facilities, which may resume unless the Strait of Hormuz is reopened by April 6. In a recent statement, the American president warned Iran that failure to reach an agreement could result in continued strikes, saying that the Gulf country would be, as he put it, obliterated if negotiations collapse. At the same time, the White House said it was considering sending more additional troops to the Middle East. This would expand the U.S. military presence in the region and may lead to a potential escalation on the ground. Analysts warn that such a move could mark a turning point, transforming the conflict from air and naval strikes to a possible ground operation. Ask if the troop deployment will strengthen the U.S. leverage in negotiations or risk a deeper and more prolonged conflict. A political analyst commented the issue.
Escalation can only make the conditions worse. The United States is stepping up pressure on Iran, combining a temporary pause with a clear warning. President Donald Trump says planned strikes on Iran strategy or Iran energy facilities have been postponed for now. But he also set a firm condition: if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened by April 6, those attacks could move forward. At the same time, the White House is weighing the deployment of additional U.S. troops to the Middle East. This dual approach, holding back while building up, sends a strong signal. On the one hand, it leaves room for diplomacy. On the other, it shows the United States is preparing for the possibility of escalation. Those who support this move argue that increasing troops level strengthens Washington's leverage. A larger military presence can act as a deterrent, protect vital shipping lanes, and signal that the United States is ready to act if its demands are not met. In that sense, it is meant to push Iran towards reopening the strait and returning to negotiations. But there is a risk. From Iran's point of view, additional U.S. forces may not look like leverage. They may look like the early stages of a wider conflict. That perception could make Iranian leaders less willing to compromise and more likely to respond with their own military or strategic moves. And that's where the danger lies. Military buildups often trigger reactions. What began as a pressure can quickly turn into escalation, especially in a region already at war and on edge. The deadline adds another layer of tension. With just days to act, both sides face increasing pressure to make decisions quickly, raising the possibility of miscalculation. So while the troop deployment could strengthen the U.S. position at the negotiation table, it also raises the stake on the ground. Iranians will not see it that way, and they believe that the consequences are so severe that the United States should reconsider its move and accept their conditions, especially the responsibility to start this war. The tension as such remains uncertain, balanced between diplomacy and the risk of a deeper, more prolonged conflict.
The G7 meeting this week in Vaud-de-Cernay in northern France called for an immediate cessation of attacks on civilian infrastructure and civilians. The group's foreign ministers said they were committed to minimize the impact of the war in Iran and to ensure a safe and free movement of ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you so much for joining us.
On the borders of the Sahara Desert is a picturesque oasis that breaks the endless horizon of sand with its beautiful buildings and massive date palm plantations. It is estimated that the city of Biskra is home to approximately 150,000 date palm trees that are very important to the economy of the city. With a population of over 200,000, Biskra is the capital city of the Biskra province and is a fascinating destination in Algeria for visitors to explore. Due to its hot weather and ideal conditions in winter, many visitors flock to Biskra during the colder seasons to soak up its beauty and sun. It is also known for its wonderful market that sells a variety of fresh fruits, of which dates, olives, pomegranates, figs and apricots are major agricultural products, as well as barley and wheat. It is also located close enough to major cities such as Betna, which is 80 kilometers away, and Touggourt, that lies 200 kilometers to the